Dawn stretched across the academy like a pale ribbon, touching the stone towers with a cold, shimmering light. Mira walked toward the central arena with slow steps, still thinking about the strange presence reported near the borders the day before. The air felt heavier today, as if the academy itself was holding its breath. When she entered the arena, she saw dozens of trainees already gathered in a circle. The instructors stood at the center, speaking quietly among themselves. Their expressions were tense, their movements sharp, their attention fixed on something Mira could not yet see. Eris appeared at her side. "They brought out the sphere of echoes," he whispered. "They only use it when something serious happens." Mira followed his gaze. At the center of the arena, beneath a set of glowing symbols, floated a dark, polished orb the size of a fist. Light pulsed inside it like a heartbeat. She had heard about it, but never seen it before. The sphere recorded disturbances in the energy surrounding the academy. If someone had approached the borders, the sphere would show it. Professor Velrin stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. Last night, the sphere detected 2 breaches in the outer fields. Neither figure attempted to enter, but both remained long enough to analyze our defenses. A quiet ripple passed through the trainees. Velrin continued, "We do not yet know their intentions, but we must prepare. Today's training will be different." Mira felt a cold shiver move down her spine. "Different," Eris exhaled slowly. "This is bad, really bad." Before Mira could answer, the sphere flickered again, projecting faint silhouettes, shadows standing outside the academy, unmoving, watching. The sight of them struck her like a physical force. She didn't know why, but something about one of the silhouettes felt familiar. Not in appearance, but in the energy it radiated, almost as if it recognized her. Velrin dismissed the projection, then turned to the trainees. "You will be tested today. Your strengths, your limits, your control. Whatever is coming, we must be ready." Mira swallowed hard. She had trained before. She had struggled, failed, learned, and risen again. But today felt different. Today felt like the beginning of something she could not yet name. And as the instructors began calling the trainees forward, Myra's heartbeat quickened, because she knew her turn was coming, and nothing about this test would be ordinary. The arena gates opened with a low hum, revealing a series of stone platforms arranged in a spiraling pattern. Each platform hovered a few feet above the ground, moving slowly in a circular motion. Trainees murmured among themselves, unsure of what this new formation meant. Instructor Kael stepped forward. His voice carried across the arena with sharp clarity. "Today, you will face the spiral trial. Each of you must cross the platforms without falling. But the platforms will react to your energy. The more unstable your power, the more unpredictable the path becomes." Mira felt her pulse quicken. She had spent the last week trying to control the strange surge inside her. But the spiral trial did not seem like a place where she could hide her uncertainty. Eris nudged her gently. "Stay close during the trial. If the platforms shift too much, I can help you." Before she could reply, Kael raised his hand. "Kael, you're first." Kael didn't hesitate. He stepped onto the first floating platform. The moment his foot touched the surface, the rings of stone began spinning faster, reacting to his presence. But Kael moved like he had done this 100 times. Calm, balanced, almost mechanical. Within seconds, he crossed the entire formation and stepped off on the other side without breaking a sweat that a few trainees whispered among themselves. He didn't even use any visible energy. How does he do that? He makes it look easy. Then Kael called the next names. One by one, trainees attempted the trial. Some succeeded. Others slipped, dropping to the soft grip mats below. Every fall triggered a shimmer of light as the mats absorbed their impact. When Eris was called, he gave Mira a reassuring smile before stepping onto the first stone. The platforms tightened beneath him, reacting to his strong but steady aura. He stumbled once near the middle, but regained his balance and reached the end. He looked back at Mira and raised a hand in silent encouragement. Then her name was called. Mira felt the entire arena shift its attention to her. She stepped toward the first platform, trying to keep her breathing even. Yes, soon as her foot touched the stone, a shock of energy pulsed through the spiral. The platforms trembled. The lights above flickered. Even the instructors exchanged uncertain glances. Mira froze. She hadn't done anything. Yet the spiral reacted as if it had sensed something deep inside her. Something she barely understood. Instructor Hale's eyes narrowed. "Proceed," he said. Mira took another step. The platform shuddered beneath her, as though the trial itself was warning her of what she carried within. And she realized this test was not just about balance, it was about control. And she was running out of time to learn it. Myra's foot pressed down on the second platform, and the entire spiral reacted at once. The stones trembled, shifting more violently than they had for any other trainee. A low hum filled the arena, growing louder with every step she took. Whispers broke out among the students. "Why is it shaking so much? She hasn't even used her power yet. Is something wrong with the trial?" Instructor Hale said nothing, but Mira could feel his watchful gaze fixed on her. She took another step. The third platform jerked sideways, forcing her to throw out her arms to keep her balance. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She felt energy stirring inside her, uncontrolled, restless, as though the trial was awakening something she had tried to keep buried. Mira closed her eyes for a moment and inhaled deeply. Stay calm. Stay steady. But the moment she opened her eyes again, the spiral shifted unexpectedly. A sharp, cracking sound echoed through the arena as one of the platforms tilted almost vertical. Gasps rose from the crowd. Eris stepped forward instinctively, his voice tense. "Mira, careful." Kael, standing on the far side, watched in total silence, but his eyes narrowed, focused solely on her movements. Mira forced herself forward. Her foot landed on the next stone, and the energy inside her surged again. For an instant, her vision blurred with white light. She stumbled, falling to one knee as the platform wobbled dangerously beneath her. She pressed her hand against the cold stone, trying to steady both herself and the power pulsing through her veins. She whispered under her breath, "Not now. Please, not now." The spiral began accelerating. Sensing her instability, the stone shook, the arena lights dimmed. Even the sphere of echoes near the instructor's podium flickered, reacting to her presence. Hale finally took a step forward. "Mira, you must regain control. If you cannot, you will need to stop." His voice was calm, but Mira could hear the underlying urgency. But stopping would mean failing the trial. It would mean proving Kael's warning true, and she couldn't let that happen. Mira stood slowly, every muscle trembling, and looked toward the remaining platforms. Only a few more steps, only a little more to push through. She took a breath, steadied her shaking hands, and prepared to move again. The entire arena went silent, waiting to see if she would fall or rise. Mira pushed herself upright, her legs unsteady as the next platform drifted into place. The arena was so quiet she could hear her own breath echoing in her ears. Every trainee watched her, frozen between fear and fascination. The fourth platform hovered ahead of her, shifting unpredictably as if testing her resolve. She stepped forward. The moment her weight touched the stone, a surge of energy rippled through the spiral. The platforms shook again, harder than before, sending a wave of motion across the formation. Mira grabbed the edge of the stone, knuckles whitening as she fought to keep her balance. Eris took a half step forward, ready to intervene. "Mira, say the word, and I'll pull you out." But Mira didn't answer, because something had changed. The energy inside her was still wild, yes, but she felt something else beneath it. A rhythm, a pattern, a faint pulse that seemed to match the trembling of the platforms, if the trial wasn't reacting against her. But with her, slowly, she placed her hand flat on the stone. A soft glow rose from beneath her palm, barely visible, but enough to steady the platform. The trembling slowed. The hum softened. Gasps rose around the arena. Instructor Hale's eyes widened, not with fear, but recognition. That Kael's expression shifted, just for a moment. A rare flicker of surprise. Mira swallowed hard and stepped onto the next platform. This one responded differently, dipping but not shaking violently. The glow beneath her fingertips remained faint but present, guiding the stone into stability. She moved again and again. Every step felt slightly easier, as though the spiral was learning her, adjusting to her energy rather than resisting it. Eris exhaled a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "She's sinking with it," he whispered. Hale murmured to another instructor, "This shouldn't be possible at her level." Kael, still watching her with sharp focus, muttered under his breath, "So it's finally waking up." Mira reached the second-to-last platform. Her heart pounded, but this time not with fear. She lifted her foot, stepped forward, and the spiral froze. All motion stopped. The platforms hovered in complete silence, suspended in midair as though held by an unseen hand. The glow beneath her hand dimmed. The arena lights flickered. Everyone stared, unsure if they were witnessing a breakthrough or the start of something they couldn't control. For a long, breathless moment, nothing in the arena moved. The spiral hung frozen above the ground, gravity forgotten. The glow beneath Mira's palm faded slowly, leaving only a faint warmth against her skin. She stood in the middle of the suspended platforms, surrounded by a silence so heavy it felt like the air itself had stopped. Then the murmurs began. "What's happening? Did she break the trial?" No one has ever stopped the spiral before. Instructor Hale raised a hand to silence them, but even he could not hide the tension in his posture. He stepped forward, eyes fixed on Mira and the motionless stones around her. "Mira," he said carefully, "step to the final platform." She nodded, though her legs trembled. The last platform hovered only a short distance away, perfectly still, waiting for her. She took a step. The crystal lights above flickered again, but the trial did not restart. No shaking, no resistance, no reaction at all. It was as if the spiral had surrendered to her presence. When her foot touched the last platform, a soft pulse rippled outward, gentle but unmistakable. The instructors exchanged quick, uneasy glances. Eris let out a slow breath of relief. She did it. But Kael didn't celebrate. He stepped closer to the edge of the arena, his eyes locked on Mira with a look Mira couldn't read. Half concern, half certainty. Hale raised his voice, "Lower the platforms." A deep mechanical hum vibrated through the arena. One by one, the stones began descending, returning Mira safely to the ground. The moment she stepped off, the platforms dimmed, folding back into the floor like nothing had happened at all. Mira felt lightheaded, not from the trial, but from the strange connection she had felt deep inside herself. A rhythm matching hers, a force that had responded to her thoughts, her fear, her will. Eris hurried to her side. "You're okay, right?" "That was intense." "I think so," she answered. "I didn't mean to stop it." Hale approached her slowly. "Mira, we need to run a full evaluation. What happened today is not a normal reaction. The spiral trial hasn't halted in decades." Before Mira could reply, another voice spoke from behind Hale. She didn't halt it. Everyone turned. Kael stood a few steps away, his tone calm and certain. She controlled it. A wave of whispers swept through the trainees. Mira stared at Kael, unsure whether to feel afraid or understood that he held her gaze. This is only the beginning. And from the way he said it, Mira knew he was right. Something inside her had awakened. Something powerful, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore. The question now was, could she control it, or would it control her? The arena began to empty as the instructors dismissed the trainees. Conversations buzzed everywhere,
Stay sharp, everyone.
each one centered around
being
Mira
watched.
and what they had witnessed. Some sounded impressed, others sounded afraid, but every voice carried the same question. What exactly had Mira awakened? Mira felt their eyes following her as she walked toward the side corridor. She tried to steady her breathing, but the weight of their attention pressed heavily on her shoulders. Eris stayed close, matching her pace. "Don't let them get to you," he said softly. "They panic whenever something unusual happens." "I didn't mean for any of it to happen," Mira replied. "It just reacted." Eris gave a small nod. "You kept yourself in control. That matters." Before she could respond, footsteps echoed behind them. Kael he approached with calm, deliberate steps. Eris immediately tensed beside Mira. Kael stopped a short distance away, his voice low. You should come with me. Eris stepped between them. She's not going anywhere with you. Not after what just happened. Kael didn't look at him. The instructors will be discussing her reaction. They will test her again. Harder. She should know what to expect. Mira frowned. How do you know that? Because it happened to me, Kael said quietly. Eris turned sharply. You're lying. They never mentioned any special reaction in your past trials. They wouldn't, Kael answered, his expression unreadable. They covered it, just like they will cover hers unless she loses control. Silence pressed between them. Mira studied his face but found no hint of deception, only a guarded truth. Kael took a step closer and spoke directly to her. You're not dealing with a simple power surge. Something inside you is waking up fast. If you don't understand it, it will overwhelm you, and then the Academy will step in. Eris shook his head. Don't listen to him, Mira. He always talks like he knows more than everyone else. Kael's eyes narrowed. Because I do. Before Eris could snap back, a sudden chime echoed through the corridor. It was the Academy's internal alert system. Short, sharp, and unexpected, a glowing message appeared along the wall. All trainees report to the central hall. Immediate assembly. Eris looked confused. What now? Kael's expression darkened. They found something? Mira's pulse quickened. The spiral trial, the border disturbance, her awakening power. Something was connecting all of it. Kael stepped back, his voice calm but urgent. Mira, whatever they reveal, next stay alert. Without another word, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. Eris looked at Mira, worry written across his face. You don't have to trust him. You have me. And Lisa. We'll figure this out together. Mira nodded, but her thoughts were tangled. Kael's warning echoed through her mind. Her power wasn't awakening by accident, and whatever the Academy had found, she feared it was connected to her. The central hall was already filled when Mira and Eris arrived. Trainees lined the walls, whispering anxiously as instructors hurried back and forth. The tension in the air felt thicker than ever, almost heavy enough to touch. Professor Velrin stepped onto the raised platform at the front of the hall. His expression was calm, but Mira could see the strain behind his eyes. When the room finally fell silent, he began. Early this morning, our outer sensors detected a second disturbance near the Academy's northern perimeter. A wave of murmurs swept through the trainees. Velrin continued. Unlike the previous encounter, this one left behind traces. He tapped a control panel. A shimmering projection appeared above the platform, an image of the forest outside the Academy walls. At first, it showed nothing unusual. Then the angle shifted, revealing a faint, thin mark burned into the ground. A curved line. A symbol. Eris frowned. What is that? Velrin zoomed in. The burned mark looked like an arc of light carved into the earth. Smooth, precise, unnatural. But what made Mira's chest tighten was the faint glow still lingering inside it, as if the ground remembered the energy that had touched it. This symbol is not from the Academy, Velrin said, nor from any of the allied institutions. Someone whispered. Then who made it? Velrin's voice grew heavier. We believe the presence that approached us may belong to an unregistered faction, a group capable of manipulating high-level energy signatures. Mira's heart dropped. Unregistered factions, the groups Lisa warned her about, the ones searching for people like her. Velrin continued. To ensure everyone's safety, all trainees will undergo additional evaluations over the next few days. These will determine if any unusual energy reactions were triggered during training. Mira felt Eris glance at her immediately. Her stomach twisted. The spiral trial, the frozen platforms, the surge of power she barely contained. They would find out. Velrin finished with a final instruction. Trainees must not leave the main grounds without authorization. Stay in groups. Report anything unusual. The projection vanished, leaving only nervous silence in its wake. As the trainees began to disperse, Lisa found Mira, her voice low but urgent. I saw how the spiral reacted to you today. Mira, if the Academy traces that energy, they're going to start asking questions. Eris stepped in. We'll keep her safe. They can't force her into anything. But Mira barely heard them, because across the hall, Kael was watching her again. This time with a look that wasn't surprise or concern, but recognition. A S if he knew exactly what that symbol meant. A S if he had seen it before. Mira couldn't look away
You
from
were near
Kael.
the spiral when it
Across the
reacted, were you
hall,
not?
he stood with his arms
Do
crossed,
you remember anything right now?
expression unreadable, but his
Because that's something
his
people
eyes
that
held
can
something
reach from
sharp,
the
like a secret he had no intention of sharing. When he realized she was watching him, he tilted his head slightly, almost as if studying her. Not suspicious, not curious. Analyzing to Lisa's hand tightened around Myra's wrist. Don't stare. He's not someone you want noticing you right now. But it was too late. Kael pushed off the wall and began walking toward them. Eris stepped forward instinctively, shifting his stance just enough to place himself between Kael and Mira. The subtle tension between the two boys crackled in the air like a warning. Kael stopped only a few feet away. For a moment, he said nothing, just swept his gaze over Mira, Lisa, and then Eris, as if reading all their reactions at once. Finally, he spoke. You were near the spiral when it reacted, weren't you? Eris stiffened. She didn't cause anything. Back off. Kael ignored him completely. His eyes stayed locked on Mira. You felt something. I can see it. Myra's pulse jumped. She didn't want to admit anything. Not to him, not to anyone. Lisa cut in sharply. Why do you care? Since when do you even pay attention to anyone outside your elite circle? Kael's lips curled into a humorless smile. Since today, because that symbol outside, the northern perimeter, I've seen it once before. Mira froze. You have? She whispered before she could stop herself. Kael nodded slowly. In the ruins near the Ashen Valley, a place sealed off for years. And the day I saw it, he paused, lowering his voice. The ground reacted the same way it reacted to you. Myra's breath caught. Her chest tightened. Kael leaned in slightly, his voice only for her now. You're connected to this, whether you know it or not. Eris stepped forward, fists clenched. That's enough. If you're trying to intimidate her, Kael finally looked at him, and something cold flickered in his eyes. I'm trying to warn her. The Academy is about to start digging. And when they do, his gaze returned to Mira. People with unexplained power become the first suspects. Lisa whispered, Mira, let's go, but Kael wasn't finished. If that symbol is a message, he said softly, then whoever left it was looking for someone. He took a step back, and I think they found what they were looking for. Mira felt her knees weaken, because deep inside her chest, the spiral mark she carried, hidden, faint yet alive, began to burn with a familiar warmth, a warning or a call. She wasn't sure anymore. Mira didn't sleep that night. She sat on the edge of her bed, her fingers pressed against the faint spiral mark glowing beneath her skin. It pulsed softly, like a heartbeat that didn't belong to her. Why now? Why did it react the moment Kael mentioned the ruins? The more she tried to calm her thoughts, the louder the questions grew. Lisa was already asleep across the room, breathing slow and steady. Eris had checked in on her twice before heading back to his dorm, but he didn't say what she already knew. Things were changing, and whatever was happening was centered around her. A sudden crackle of energy prickled in the air. The lights flickered up. Myra's heart jumped as a soft glow formed near the window. Faint at first, then slowly sharpening into the shape of a symbol. The same symbol from the northern perimeter. The same spiral. Myra's breath hitched. She rose slowly, stepping closer. The symbol floated inches above the floor, spinning gently like a whisper of light. It wasn't threatening. It wasn't chaotic. It felt familiar, almost welcoming. As Mira hesitated, the symbol pulsed, and a fragment of sound, like an echo from somewhere far away, filled the room. A voice, not human, not clear. A layered whisper, ancient and trembling with power, found. Mira staggered back, hitting the edge of the table. The glowing spiral collapsed into itself and vanished instantly, as if it had never been there. The room fell silent. Lisa didn't move. Nothing stirred. Only Mira had seen it. Only Mira had heard it. Her chest tightened as realization sank in. Someone, or something, was reaching out to her. Before she could process it, a sudden knock rattled the door, point three sharp bangs. Not Lisa. Not Eris. Her breath caught as a familiar voice spoke from the hall, low, controlled, and impossibly timed. Mira, open the door. Kael. And his tone wasn't neutral anymore. It carried urgency and fear. Mira opened the door slowly, half expecting to see the symbol glowing again. Instead, Kael stood there, but he didn't look like the calm soldier she had met earlier. His jaw was tight, his eyes were alert, and he kept glancing down the hallway, as if checking for shadows that followed him. "We need to talk," he said. Mira stepped aside, and Kael entered quickly, shutting the door behind him. Lisa was still asleep on the other side of the room, unaware of the tension building around them. "What happened?" Mira whispered. Kael hesitated before answering. "There were disturbances during the night," he began. "Energy signatures near the barracks. The same pattern as the northern perimeter." Myra's pulse quickened. She knew what he was talking about. Kael continued, lowering his voice. "Mira, you felt something tonight, didn't you?" Mira didn't want to answer, but she couldn't lie. Not after what had just appeared in her room. She nodded once. Kael exhaled sharply, confirming his suspicion. "There's more," he said. "Our sensors picked up a location, not far from the academy." Mira frowned. "A location for what?" Kael looked at her with a seriousness that chilled her. "For whatever is searching for you." The words felt heavy, almost unreal. Searching for her. Mira took a step back, breath unsteady. "Why me? I'm no one. I'm not a soldier. I'm not special." Kael shook his head. "That mark on your arm, it isn't random. It's older than the academy, older than our entire kingdom. We think it's a guide, or a key." Myra's fingers subconsciously touched the faint spiral glowing under her skin. A key. The room felt smaller. The air felt thick. "Mira," Kael said calmly, "if something ancient is calling to you, we need to know why. And we need to know what it wants." Before she could answer, the lights flickered again. Once, then twice, as a soft hum vibrated through the floor. Then a single line of glowing energy slid across the ceiling, like a silent stroke of lightning. That Kael's hand went instantly to the hilt of his weapon. Myra's heartbeat pounded in her ears. The glow stretched into a shape, a familiar one up the spiral, but bigger, brighter. And this time, it wasn't alone that a second symbol formed. Then a third. The entire room shimmered with ancient markings Mira had never seen before, yet somehow understood. Kael whispered, "It's begun." Mira couldn't move. The symbols pulsed in unison. A voice echoed through the room, clearer than before, deeper, resonating from the walls themselves. "Mira, the path opens." The glow expanded, flooding the room with blinding light. And then everything went silent. Everything went white. And the episode ends.